Oh, that's not my Bible. Where's my Bible? There we go. I want to talk about the sign of Jonah. Now, this is one of those passages that's misunderstood by Muslims, and sadly, Christians, in their desperation to reply to Islamic apologetics. Oh, feel free to listen. We're talking. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to talk about the sign of Jonah. We want to talk about the sign of Jonah. If we go to Matthew chapter 12, verse 40, it says, reading from verse 38, then some of the scribes and the Pharisees said to him, Teacher, we wish to see a sign from you. But he answered, an evil and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a sea monster, so for 3 days and 3 nights the Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth. The people of Nineveh will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. And lots of Muslims misunderstand the passage of Jonah. Everybody thinks that it's the time reference that is being spoken of here, that it's 3 days and 3 nights. And Muslims make this argument. And sadly, lots of Christians who just go along with the Islamic argument try to find an answer that fits in with the Muslim argument. And it's unnecessary. Because what actually happened in the book of Jonah, if we go to it, so in the book of Jonah, in chapter 2, listen carefully. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish, saying, I called to Yahweh out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried. Sheol is where the dead go to. And this shows not only can spirits pray to God, but it shows that Jonah was dead in the belly of the whale. So when Christ said, as Jonah was in the belly of the whale, 3 days and 3 nights, he's not talking about the time reference. He's talking about the state of being. Christ says that he will be in the tomb and on the 3rd day will rise again. And that's the teaching of the apostles. We see it in 1 Corinthians 15:4. If we go there, we read 1 Corinthians 15:4. And he was buried, and that he was raised on the 3rd day. On, not after, on the 3rd day. We read it in Acts chapter 10, verse 40. We go there. But God raised him on the 3rd day, not after the 3rd day, not the 4th day, not the beginning of the 4th day, but on the 3rd day. We read it in Luke 24:7. We go there. And the Son of Man must be handed over to the sinners and be crucified, and on the 3rd day rise again. In Mark 14:58 we read, we heard him say, I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another not made with hands. This doesn't contradict on the 3rd day, it corresponds to on the 3rd day. And finally, 2 more, Matthew 16:21, we read, from that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem, undergo great suffering at the hands of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the 3rd day be raised. And all of this corresponds to the prophecy in Hosea chapter 6 verse 2.
We don't disrespect Jesus like you do, Bob. We don't believe he was crucified.
That's disrespect.
Yeah,
You just contradict history, bro.
No, it's you lot that just corrupted the scriptures and.
Okay, show me the original.
Well, we don't have the original.
Then how can you say it's corrupted?
Because
If you don't have the original, what can you compare it to?
the Quran is the criteria by which we judge.
So in other words, it's the conjecture of the Quran. But the Quran doesn't say it's corrupted.
The Quran says that
Instructs Christians and Jews to live by the Torah and the Gospel. That's what it says.
And it also calls it guidance and light.
So, in Hosea chapter 6, verse 2, we read this: "And after 2 days he will revive us on the third day. He will raise us up that we may live before him." So Muslims and Christians misunderstand the sign of Jonah. It wasn't talking about the time period, it was talking about the state that Jesus would be in. The same state that Jonah was in. That is, that he was dead in Sheol and would rise again. And that is the true meaning of that passage.
Are you taking questions, Bob?
On the argument, yes.
So Sam has a question. Where are you taking that interpretation from? Is that your question, Sam? Yes.
Okay.
Where are you taking that understanding from?
Sam, do you know what Sheol is? Right. So very quickly, Sheol is, Sam, universally, Bart Ehrman agrees with this. I know you love Bart Ehrman. Sheol was the place where the dead went to. Jonah says that he is praying from the belly of Sheol. So if he's praying from the belly of Sheol, what must Jonah be? He must be dead. There you go. So that's what the passage is saying. We Christians believe that spirits can still pray to God. No, he was dead. Jonah was dead. So what's Sheol then? What's Sheol? You don't know. That's my point, Sam. You don't know. But Jonah is saying in his prayer that he's praying from the belly of Sheol. Only dead people are in Sheol. Yeah, no living person is in Sheol. What?
And this Sheol has a belly.
Well, that's obviously a metaphorical phrase. He's talking about in the heart of Sheol, like in the depths of Sheol.
Yeah, but how has a belly?
I think you're just clutching at straws there, Sammy.
Not related to Jesus in any way.
Right.
I know.
Now hold on one second. Let me address his point. He says that it's not related to Jesus. Jesus himself made it related because Jesus said that you'll receive no sign except the sign of Jonah, as Jonah was in the belly of the whale. Jonah was not alive. Exactly. But the Muslims argue that Jonah was alive. And why do they argue that Jonah was alive? Because they don't want to accept that Jesus died. Despite all the evidence. Despite all the evidence.
Which proof do you have that Jonah was died? And Jonah he was 3 nights and 3 days. Jesus he wasn't 3 days and 3 nights.
There you go, and that's how they misunderstand it. You just heard it in real time. Because Jesus wasn't talking about the time as Sammy thinks he was. He was talking about the state. What's your sister? Well, the sister that's let me answer the question. Let me answer her question. No, Sammy, you're doing it again. You've been rude to a lady. Let me answer her question. I did. You didn't listen. I did. So in answer to your question, why does Jesus have to die? Because God, who is our creator, gave us life. And when we rebel against God, we refuse to give him what he is owed. The debt that is owed to God is life. And so, to pay that debt, a life must be given. But there was no human being on his own that was worthy, valuable enough to pay that debt. And so
Your
the
false
divine
God, your own
Logos,
Son,
the Son of the Father,
false God.
entered into creation and paid that sacrifice
You
by his
liar.
own life,
You liar.
was consumed by death so that he himself would conquer death, and by conquering death allow us to enter into eternal life. Okay, I'm going to do another talk over there. Or not, or shall we stop? What time is it?
Bob, become a Muslim and
No, become a Christian.
No.
Stop believing slave trading is good. Follow a better moral example, who is
Bob, I'd
Jesus
love
Christ.
to own slaves. I'd love to own some slaves.
You couldn't make this up.
But
Could not make this
I
up.
would get rid of you as soon as I could.
And I think, bro, you have provided examples to now thousands of people who will watch this and recognise that not only should we not follow Islam, but that we should oppose Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
No,
I
no,
think
no,
you've demonstrated why we should. Now, Sammy, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Sammy. Yes, I did. No. I want to ask you a question, Sammy. Sammy, let me ask you a question. 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 Mind yourself, mind yourself. Sammy, let me ask you a question.
Ask him, Bob.
Yeah? Let me answer a question. Why does Allah say that for those... Oh, notice he doesn't want to follow now. I'm asking him a question. Now I'm asking him a question. He doesn't want to follow. Now let me ask you a question. Let me ask you the question. Let me ask you the question that I'll take you to the Marriott Hotel. I'll buy you a cup of tea and we'll talk. Would you like to do that?
All right.
All right then. Yeah, my treat. I'll buy you the drink.
All right.
But let me ask you this question.
Okay,
There's a hadith that says that for the sins of the Muslims, Allah will take a Christian or a Jew and throw them into hell so that a Muslim can go into heaven. Now let me ask you this question.
Sahih?
Yes, it's Sahih.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me
I'm
ask you
gonna
this
take your
question.
word for it, but-
Why are Jews and Christians the saviors of Muslims?
Okay.
Remember, Luca, freed slaves were rulers of Arabs. Catch up.
Thank you, brother. Okay, look. So.
Freed slaves in a slave economy.
Okay, wait. So you're saying it says that Jews and Christians will be thrown in hell to save the soul of one Muslim?
Yeah, a Christian or a Jew will be thrown into hell so that a Muslim can enter into paradise.
Okay. Well.
Doesn't that make those Jews and Christians the saviors of Muslims?
No, that's just a figure of speech that you've come up with. So obviously it's saying that Jews and Christians, or some Jews and Christians, will go to hell.
But who's
and
paying the
Muslims-
debt of the sin of the Muslims?
Okay, Rob, I'll tell you what that hadith is. It's basically...
So you know it exists.
Well, no, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
So how do you know what it means if you haven't read it?
Because from what you're telling me, I'm going to explain it to you. So what that basically means is it's a bit like a parable that Jesus might give. So it's basically saying there's bad Jews and Christians, they're going to go to hell, but Muslims are going to go to heaven. That's all it's saying.
So as someone who's actually read that hadith,
Right.
let me tell you it's not a parable.
Okay.
It's a description of what's going to happen.
Well, it's...
So you're wrong. You're just utterly wrong. I've read that hadith. You haven't read that hadith. It is not a parable.
Okay, I'm taking your word for it. I mean, I
Yeah,
would
because
say
I'm
that
the only one
sounds-
that's read it out of the two of us.
Yeah, but it sounds like a parable to me.
Well, you're wrong, because I've read it and you haven't, and it's not a parable.
Okay.
It's a description of what will happen.
All right.
So tell me again, why are Jews and Christians paying the price of sinful Muslims?
Thank you. Yeah, it's right. So, wait, can you quote it verbatim?
No, I'd have to pull up the reference.
All right. Well,
But more or less, you've got the gist of it very clearly.
well, no. I mean, it sounds nonsensical to me. And it
I
doesn't
agree,
sound-
your hadiths are nonsensical, but that still doesn't escape the point that the hadiths make the claim.
So
Your Sahih hadiths are indeed nonsensical.
right. So, well, no. I mean, wait. Okay. So, repeat it again. So you're saying it says.
So it says on the Day of Judgment
Right.
that there will be some Muslims, because of the weight of their sin, that can't enter into paradise.
Okay.
But Allah in His mercy will take a Jew or a Christian and throw them into hell so that the sinful Muslim can enter into paradise, which means that the Jew or the Christian is paying the sinful debt of the Muslim.
Okay, I'm going to have a look at this.
Yeah, we'll pull it up.
Yeah,
but would you agree that that would be wrong?
See, Bob, what you're trying to do, this is a tactic, by the way, that Christians use. If you are basically either misquoting or misrepresenting a hadith.
You say that, but I'm going to show you.
And then getting me to agree with it so that you can try and trick me into becoming a Christian.
No, just on
this
principle.
Is a common
No, just
tactic
do a
which
thought
you
experiment with me. If I am right,
missionaries use.
is that wrong?
Disgusting, Bob.
Is that
it's
wrong?
Really disgusting.
There's only one of us that wants to own slaves, bro, and that's you. You're the disgusting one. Now, in terms of this hadith, answer this question. Assuming that I am right. So it's a thought experiment. Assuming that I am right, do the thought experiment.
Assuming he's right.
Doing the thought experiment. And this is the supremacism of Islam. Assuming that I am right, is that wrong?
What the hadith about the Christians?
Yeah, chucking Jews and Christians into hell so that Muslims can go to heaven. Would that be unjust and wrong?
Bob,
I want you to answer my question, not avoid it.
Bob, if you carry on like this, you're going to go to hell.
You haven't answered my question.
I'm sorry to tell you.
So my question was...
I'm sorry to tell you,
is
Bob,
it unjust to chuck Jews and Christians into hell so Muslims can go to heaven?
Bob, I'd be right next to Allah telling him to throw you into hell, right? Because the way you carry on, I mean, it's probably the best thing that could be done with you. Right?
So what we are...
And I'm being serious.
So every one of those Jews or Christians is the saviour of those Muslims.
No, they're not, Bob. Allah is the saviour.
So now notice he didn't say it was unjust, which means that Muslims don't have an argument against Christ paying the sins, paying the debt of our sin. He said it wasn't unjust, which means that it's not unjust for God, through Christ, to pay the debt of our sin.
Amen.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
He didn't see that coming. I'm coming in here to talk to him. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Peace be with you. Merry Christmas, guys. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.